Tatum Bethune. I love stories like Tatum Bethune. It's one of the things I like most about covering sports. A guy like him who's a seventh round pick and had no guarantee of being anyone gets an opportunity, has a game like this, and now you're thinking maybe he's going to be like the next Brock Purdy, the next George Kittle, the next diamond in the rough, or maybe he was just a one-game aberration. I don't know. I tend to think that he's pretty good. What do you think, Larry?
During the draft process, after the Niners drafted him, as a content creator, we do a lot of stuff around the draft. So I think I called somebody in one of the black books or the college football book from Florida State, and I talked to some Florida State blogger one day, and this guy was like Mr. Seminole. I mean, this guy had all the info, and I'm like, tell me about Tatum Bethune. What do you think? And he's like, he's going to be a great player in 3 years. I mean, he was like really adamant and really like, and I'm like, what? Wait, why? What in 3 years? And he's like, right now he's like 5'11", 6 feet, about 230, but he's walking around. He's kind of a college kid. He's got college kid body and he's got college kid weight, but eventually he's going to get into the NFL and he's going to get to an NFL weight room and he's going to put on 5 or 6 pounds of really good muscle and he's going to drop like 10, 12 pounds. He's going to kind of redo his body, and a year from now, 2 years from now, he's going to have that speed where he can be a 3-down guy because he's awesome against the run, but he needs a step or two speed-wise. He's a little on the slow side. He gets picked on. Man, I talked to this guy. I'm like, then I forget who the guy was even. That was the greatest scouting report of all time because that's exactly what's happened. And then when I asked Fred Warner about him this summer, I'm like, what do you think of Tatum? And he's like, not only did he learn the defense and spend all this time learning our scheme, but he's redone his whole body. So I went up to Tatum. I'm like, Tatum, did you really redo your whole body? He's like, hell yeah. He's like, I dropped some weight. I put on some muscle. I dropped some fat. I reproportioned myself. And I'm stronger than ever. I'm a little quicker than ever. And I feel like I've gained a step or two. Well, it's kind of like Brock Purdy going to Jacksonville and getting a little bit of extra velo on his fastball. It doesn't matter if you got a big-time fastball, but if you got an average fastball, a little bit more means making it versus not. And I think Tatum Bethune's in that camp. He went from a little too slow to be a scrimmage player to plenty fast enough to be a scrimmage player. He's added an extra step. He's always great against the run. He's a violent hitter. And now he's just good enough movement to be a player that you can keep on the field and he can play some coverage. He's a great kid too. Terrific guy.
Remember, I feel like it was a couple of weeks ago, Robert Saleh was asked about Dre Greenlaw, and he described Dre Greenlaw's 40-yard dash as, I believe the word he used was glacial.
Right. It was like 4.7 something.
4.73. Tatum Bethune ran at his pro day a 4.77. So kind of the same. But yeah. I'm just saying, like, if you look at their pro days results, Bethune and Dre Greenlaw, it's like identical. They're the same exact height. Bethune's 229. Greenlaw was 231. They both have 32-inch arms. Actually, Bethune's arms are a little longer. I mean, he triggers like Greenlaw. He hits like Greenlaw. He might just be their replacement for freaking Dre Greenlaw.
He's a bigger, thunderous hitter than a Fred. I mean, I love Fred. Fred's a great coverage player, but Bethune will knock you out. Yeah. I mean, he's a thumper. And what really because we don't talk to him that much. What really opened my eyes, he told everybody that he cried before the game. I mean, it means a lot to him. So it's not like you're not going to get his best. And then Johnny Holland is a tremendous coach. Niner linebackers improve and they get better. And Johnny told me he loved this kid. He said that, he shows up at the football. He said he absolutely shows up at the football and he does it consistently. And Johnny made the point. He's like, hey, man, you can have great speed in this league, but if you don't have the instincts, you're just further away from the play. And it's true. It's like, and now you got a guy like Tatum who's got great instincts. So he's already kind of flowing in the right direction, and now he's got an extra step of speed to get there. So I think he's going to be just fine. I'll say this. I think, Grant, he's going to have a 15 tackle game between now and the end of the year because he's some team that runs the ball a ton. There were 4 or 5 tackles that Mustafa had yesterday and other guys had that, and Tatum was right there too. He's going to have a 15 tackle game.
I think if he goes on to be a really good player, and we tell the story of Tatum Bethune, like, when did you know Tatum Bethune was good? Well, his first career start was incredible. I mean, to have to replace a future first ballot Hall of Famer, one of the most beloved players in franchise history, and to have to face Bijan Robinson, who was looking like probably is the best running back in the league, him or Jonathan Taylor, and to hold him to 2 point something yards per carry, 40 rushing yards, that's like legendary. And it wasn't Tatum all on his own, but he is the middle linebacker. And if he wasn't communicating well, there would have been people out of gaps and they would have gotten gashed. Like what was so impressive about his performance was how all encompassing it was. Like he really had that defense playing like Fred was out there.
They didn't miss a beat. They didn't miss a beat. And, it's funny too, because I forget, I think it was Kyle was asked about it. He's like, hey, what happened on the coverage bust? And he's like, yeah, and then Kyle was asked about it this week about the reps. And he's like, yeah, I think it's a huge deal if you get practice reps for guys like that. Cause they, if you're not in the ones, you're not going to know every single, wrinkle of the game plan. But if you get those reps during the week and Johnny can take his time and go through each rep with you, I just think that Tatum was a lot more prepared to play this week than he was last week. I mean, I don't want to say the Niners weren't ready for that, but that they did anything deficient, but you weren't banking to lose Fred. You lost Fred in the middle of the game, and it's a difficult thing. I thought Tatum would be better this week. He was quite a bit better.
Is there something to my friend was making this point to me, this argument that it's harder for a team to transition from starting middle linebacker to backup middle linebacker mid-game than starting quarterback to backup quarterback, because the backup, like you're prepared for that transition. The backup quarterback's been in that situation before, but like when you really have to transfer the green dot, has that backup middle linebacker done that? Like when was the last time you actually called plays and got people lined up in a game that mattered with this team? It's a tough transition to make mid-game, and I think it's interesting to see how much better the whole defense looked with like 1 week of preparation.
Yeah, and forget just game that mattered in a game. I'm sure Tatum has worn the green dot in practice and done some stuff, but I mean, Fred practices every day. It's not like Fred misses a bunch of practices. So I bet you he's maybe never done it in a game, and as you said, maybe no game that matters, maybe a preseason game. But you could also see what it meant to him and how important it was to him. And to me, that's really what it's about. It's like, do you have the ability to play? And then how important is it to you? Because if it's important to you, you'll work at it and you'll get better. If it's not, you won't. This guy's really, really, football is important. And I think Bethune's going to get better and better and better. I think people are going to really like him when they see, that next man up thing always sounds good, but it's always predicated on who's the next guy. If the next guy sucks, no, then it's the next man up all day, but it's just who cares? But if the next guy up is actually good, well, then, yeah, bring him on.
Prize Picks will give you $50 when you play your first $5 lineup. Win or lose, you'll get $50 for playing. Use promo code COHN, COHN, and download the app now. What I love about the Niners' ability to draft and develop linebackers, especially these late round picks, is a lot of times you think if you find a guy in round 7, like Brock Purdy or Juwan Jennings, you're like, okay, he's good, but there's a deficiency, right? How did someone fall all the way here? Oh, Brock's a little smaller, his arm isn't as strong. Or Juwan runs a 4.7. Okay, it makes sense. But at linebacker, with what the Niners are looking for, and you look at Tatum Bethune's physical profile, he's not lacking in anything. I mean, on paper, he's slow, but on the field, he's not slow. On paper, Dre Greenlaw is slow, but on the field, he triggers extremely quickly. And I think that's the kind of player that Tatum Bethune is showing himself to be, the kind of guy who plays very fast.
And it just goes to show that, I mean, probably Johnny and maybe it's Robert, maybe it's the other defensive coaches, maybe it's the scouts, but they value things that they value guys who can play. And even if they'll take the linebacker who had a career where he started and played and made a ton of tackles over the guy who ran the better 40 time. And I think that's probably the way to go. I'd rather have good football players and see if I can get their bodies to give them a little bit more juice than try to take a guy whose body's super twitchy, but he doesn't have a clue of how to play linebacker. I mean, you can't coach instincts like that.
I also think they found like a market inefficiency or something like arbitrary preference from NFL teams. Like a lot of these linebackers the Niners draft are 5'11 and a half. And I think maybe a lot of teams just like, I'm not drafting a 5'11 linebacker. I'm taking them off my draft board. And so they find Dre Greenlaw, Tatum Bethune, Nick Martin, who may or may not be good, but they keep drafting
Lamar
these like
Bowman.
quote these like shorter linebackers who actually are just as good as the 6'1" guys, but other teams aren't interested.
Yeah, no question. That it's all about, it doesn't matter. I mean, to me, the most overrated aspect of football is height. I mean, it's why? Because the athletes who play this game in 2025 are so spectacular that your athleticism means more than your height. It doesn't, I don't care if you're 6'4". I'm going to take Nick Martin over a 6'4" guy because Nick Martin's an explosive, fast athlete who's got, it looks like he doesn't, have great instincts. But guess what? You're going to be able to use that guy in other ways. Because he's so fast and so athletic. So yeah.
And if a guy's like 5'11" and a half with long arms, would you rather have a guy who's 6 feet with short arms? Like there are other ways to sort of get around a guy being short. And if you look at these linebackers like Greenlaw and Bethune, they have really long arms, so they can still make an impact in coverage. They're not just like Chris Borland out there. Remember Chris Borland?
5'11", but he was great. Yeah. I mean, Devin White had a great year with Tampa. He's no more than 6'1". Sam Mills went, Hall of Fame type player. I mean, he's short. Dexter Coakley was a great player with Dallas for years. He's short. Bowman was no more than 5'11", 6 feet, but he was rocked up 250 and he could run a 4.5. So, you need to be such an awesome athlete that it doesn't matter if you're 6'2" or 5'11". If you're a great athlete, you can play.
I do think the linebacker Fred's tall, and I think that helps him in coverage. It's so tough to throw over him and over the middle of the field, but other than that, I don't think it really matters.